Of course, I reject the label clean tech. That's just a marketing term.
Okay.
I think what that means is lower greenhouse gas emissions, but much more material intensity, much more land intensity, and intermittent solar panels.
Okay.
So, and you're right, China is huge in the manufacturing of these systems. China has built lots of wind and solar, but China last year permitted 100 gigawatts of coal power. Their energy system is more hydrocarbon dominant than ours. So they're not moving that direction. They're building a manufacturing industry to sell products to the United States and Europe. So far, I would say it's worked for them better than it's worked for us. The United States gets just over 3% of our primary energy from wind, solar, and batteries. 3%. Hundreds of billions of dollars for 3%.
I played on the stage, played off the stage. I love it. Of course, that was the Secretary of Energy. The crowd like this that person needs no introduction. So we are now joined by our final guest before the break. Welcome, Heather Reams. She is the president of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions, a right of center nonprofit organization. Heather, great to see you. Good morning.
How are you? Hi. I've got my water with me here. I've been a little raspy with all the pollen these days. So,
oh, I hear you.
And I was forgive me.
Just talking about that this morning with my wife. Thank God for the rain to
literally
wash the air of all that pollen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here. It's been really an interesting and fruitful discussion so far this morning. And so I'm eager to get some of your perspectives. We've heard a lot about the all of the above energy strategy.
Yeah.
It seems to be on the lips of everyone this morning and everybody in this sector around town over the course of the last, years. So that seems to be a bipartisan consensus that we need more energy production in this country, not less. So look no further than the energy needed to support the massive new data centers across the country, powering industries like AI, artificial intelligence, and crypto mining.
Right.
What does that look like now, moving forward?
In terms of what kind of energy we can get online? Well, you mentioned all the above, and actually I had an op-ed recently about wondering if all the above is still, the law of the land for Republicans. We have been seeing some retracting away from all the above. I know this morning we heard all the above from Congressman Weber, and I definitely appreciate hearing that. But there's some factions of the party who are pulling away from all the above and leaning towards a best of the above. And I want to caution that's dangerous. Republicans have traditionally been more all of the above. And then Democrats usually didn't like that term. Now I was reading this morning that Representative Huffman was saying, I thought we were all the above, and he was too. So it's interesting how we're seeing things realign right now.
Okay, so best of the above, how is that defined by the Republicans?
I think, in the eye of the beholder, really. Some would say it goes towards baseload power only. So the reliability that's there, and anything that has intermittency, like renewable energy, wouldn't be considered best of the above. And I think that's false. Right now, we just heard from the last panel, we know that deploying energy right now, what we need right now, is going to be a renewable energy plus battery storage. That's deployable today, and it can be done very, very quickly. We don't have to worry about supply chains to make sure that we're getting the gas turbine. I think Sean was saying the bridge between renewable energy and natural gas is very true, but I think there's a place for all kinds of energy, depending where it is. And the more energy that we make here in the United States, heck, that's more we can export around the world. So I think it's a win-win when we think about all the above.
Okay, so give me your analysis. This is something you think about and talk about a lot, obviously, of why that shift has happened within the Republican Party.
I would say it's politics over policy for sure. That this White House has not been kind to a lot of renewable energy. It's different from the last administration. I felt like it was kind of all the above, kind of left it there. This Trump 2.0 seems to be a little bit more hostile to all the above and is leaning towards a best of the above. And I think some members in Congress are taking that lead. And if they disagree with the president, they're doing so privately and not necessarily publicly. You praise publicly and you criticize privately. I do the same. But I think there's some politics going on here.
Well, politics is always a reflection of the voters, what the voters' mood, right?
Yeah, maybe so, but also who's the dominant voice in Washington right now? A new president is coming in, And, the pendulum tends to swing in the balance of power towards the White House every time there's a new president. So we've just finished 100 days. I expect this to level out. But right now, I'm making sure I'm cautioning against that best of the above, because we do need, as people say, every electron we can possibly get, but also just thinking longer term, the ability to produce homegrown energy here in the United States means more we can export to our allies around the world.
Okay, I'm going to get off script here because
Yeah.
I have this weird fixation with this issue that you just raised and was raised at the earlier panel on battery storage. For years, it was always, well, we can't take the next step because the battery storage challenges and sort of limit us in terms of EVs and everything else that, all these other applications. So what is the breakthrough? What's the state of play?
And batteries?
Yeah.
I mean, it's long duration battery storage is getting better and better. And there's different kinds of technologies that are happening with different kinds of components, whether they're domestically sourced or they have some foreign sourcing involved. It is exciting. In fact, some of the moonshot type of prize programs were done in Trump 1 for battery storage. So, I mean, don't people say, oh, but Trump didn't do anything for renewable energy. That's not true. You have to look at the track record, what's going on. So battery storage absolutely has a place, and certainly co-location when you're putting a data center near the site of producing the energy, combining with batteries. Wow, you've got something pretty powerful there, and companies themselves are willing to pay for it. So that's a win as well.
One of the things that was always a dividing line between red and blue in this town was permitting reform, right? And so we're hearing a lot about it these days, and we've talked about some of the EOs that have been signed and some of the initiatives in Congress. Where is their middle ground? Where is the balance? How should it be streamlined and modernized?
Well, I'll say another thing. Permitting is also in the eye of the beholder, depending on who you're talking to. We came so close in the last Congress of getting a bill that was bipartisan, falling apart at the last minute. I know was hard for Senators Manchin and Barrasso to see that. And I know Chairman Westerman and his team worked really hard to try to get that over the line. That bill exists, by the way. It still is sitting in the wings, waiting to be reinvigorated, maybe updated a little bit. And that's what we're hopeful for, to see that, because that's a great starting place where the bipartisanship was to begin with. I think everyone agrees that the government process is too slow. I think how slow, what needs to be streamlined. And if you talk to the environmental community, they're going to say something different than businesses. We know that the legal process and the judicial review needs to be streamlined. It's just taking too darn long. And when our international competitors are beating us, and I mean by leaps and bounds of being able to deploy energy faster than we can, we've got to look at things and say, what can we do differently? And I've also heard a lot from AI, the benefits that AI can bring into modernizing how we're thinking about permitting as well. I think that's an exciting discussion we've been having since President Trump has taken office and Elon Musk has been in and around Washington, and talking about how we can use AI to help modernize the process. So I think we start with the bill we didn't quite get across the finish line last year, but go from there.
So reducing regulations, permitting reform, it's more than just an ideological issue.
I think it's a red, white, and blue issue for sure.
Okay. You talk to Republicans a lot about the climate and what should be done about it. With the Republicans controlling the House, the Senate, and the White House, where are we on climate and climate policy? Yeah,
well, I'll caution that, remember that while there is that so-called trifecta, these margins are razor thin, particularly in the House of Representatives. So there's a majority, but barely a majority. So, and not all Republicans agree about what to do about climate in the House or the Senate, or even the White House for that matter. Republicans are fairly new to engaging on using the word climate, much less legislating on it. I think Republicans, though, have been always talking about conservation, preservation of the environment, and they're going to go at fixing a problem differently than Democrats will be. And that's one of the key things that Cusp has been trying to do with my organization, is really try to educate that Republicans are going to engage on reducing emissions differently. So an example of that, if you're displacing coal with natural gas, you're going to reduce emissions. We did so here in the United States, nearly by 40%. Other developing nations want electricity. They deserve electricity. We know that electricity is the backbone of a modern economy. Let's make sure that there's better outcomes for communities, for families, for health, for education, all of that. So displacing coal with natural gas is a step in the right direction. It gives strong baseload power. We're providing the LNG. All boats kind of rise. But there are some that say, no, keep it in the ground. LNG should not be used, and we need to move them only to renewable energy. And I disagree with that. Republicans disagree with that. We need to be using the sources that are available to modernize and lower global emissions. And displacing coal will do that.
The president talks about beautiful, clean coal, though.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. He's actually one of the few Republicans recently that I've heard talk about coal. Certainly some of the delegations that are coal country, West Virginia, Wyoming, of course, but it's been less and less. And I think it's just because the numbers aren't there, the popularity isn't there, and there are other technologies that can replace it. So coal wants to compete, let it compete. But at the end of the day, I think the voters really want cleaner sources, and they exist. Why not use them?
Okay. So I'm going to give you a chance to talk about some of the projects and technologies your company has developed and implemented.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit organization that engages Republicans about the benefits of clean energy, clean tech, and climate. And you can say that you can use the C word without checking your Republican bona fides. You can be a Republican.
That being climate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the C word is climate, by the way.
Okay.
A lot of people, some people, I wonder what they think when they say the C word. So a lot of things we do are educational based, giving Republicans an opportunity to talk about what they're for. So tomorrow, for instance, we have a leaders event, energy event, Republicans are coming from the Hill, mostly House, but some Senate, talking about why they support some of the provisions in the IRA tax credits. While they didn't vote for it because of the partisan process, they have been supportive of those tax incentives because they're benefiting their district. Someone like Representative Buddy Carter, someone like Representative Miller Meeks, Representative Garbarino. These are members who have also signed a letter talking about, hey, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some of this has benefited our district. We want to talk about that. And remember, in the IRA, those tax credits, a lot of those tax credits had genealogy that was Republican. It's just the process was super partisan. Reconciliation, of course, we're going through a reconciliation process right now. It's also partisan. Both sides use it. It's just not great for bipartisanship.
Okay, short term, you talked about reconciliation. As a daily news reporter and a breaking news reporter, I am very much focused on how that's all going to shape out. And I know it's not going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it's certainly over the next several weeks and a couple months. What is going to be the impact on the issues that you care about in the short term?
Well, I mean, certainly what we're going through right now with House Ways and Means is looking at the fate of these tax credits. There's, in the Republican Party, a balance of the fiscal responsibility, size of government, what is the appropriate role of government, and then how these tax benefits can benefit the United States, the taxpayer. And that's in the eye of the beholder, right? And this compromise is messy. It's sausage making. Mm-hmm. You got to have a stomach for this stuff.
Right.
And that's where we believe that a lot of these tax credits are going to help the United States. There's also business certainty. Are we a country that when we say we permit something, it happens? When we give it a tax credit, it continues? And companies have put billions of dollars in investment out there to pull the carpet out from underneath them.
And then a political wind shift.
And then boom. I mean, and this pendulum swinging is really not good for certainty, not good for business. We know that, but I think a lot of businesses themselves have been going up to Capitol Hill to explain that themselves. So maybe there's some trimming. Maybe there's caps on some of the tax credits. Maybe the duration isn't as long. But we'd like to see all of them stay for some duration. And then, there'll be another political climate 4 years from now or whenever that is. They'll live to see another day. But right now, we'd like to see some of them stay for certainty.
Okay, that was the short term.
Yep.
In the long term, how do you see the energy efficiency industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Energy efficiency specifically, or just energy?
Yeah.
No, energy efficiency has a huge role right now. The technologies now, we can use technology and energy efficiency to reduce the energy that we use, and we can use that for other things. I mean, the scarcity of electricity right now is huge. So anything we can do to make it more efficient right now and in the future is incredibly important. I mean, the demand we know is huge. AI is going to use a lot. Electrification is going to use a lot. I mean, we need to be thinking about today and tomorrow. And we hope our legislators and our policymakers are thinking about that and legislating accordingly.
So how should the government empower private companies to develop and enhance American technologies that capture carbon, for example, while maintaining jobs is what, obviously what members of Congress care about, their districts in some of these communities? As
a right-of-center organization, we want to see less on the mandate side and more on the incentive side. So more carrot, less stick. So in the previous administration, the Biden administration, we saw a lot of mandates, and you're seeing those being repealed by Republicans because we just don't like mandates. We don't like the government saying do this and do that. We like more incentivizing and then saying let the market kind of take over from there. And there is some tinkering with the market when you make incentives. I understand that. But saying like this is the kind of technology, this is the kind of electric vehicle you must use, this is the kind of electricity you need to use. You can't use coal, you can't use natural gas. These types of things have really created this. That was a pendulum swing, by the way. Now we're having a pendulum swing the other way. So what we'd like to see is something more down the middle.
Right, you've talked about more carrot, less stick.
Yeah,
and you've written that strict federal regulations are not the way to go for clean energy.
Exactly.
And climate innovation. So what is the better path?
Well, I mean, what we've seen traditionally from Democrats have been, well, it's 1.5 degrees, and we have to do whatever we can do to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius because we're all going to burn. And I think there's that kind of rhetoric. While I agree that the climate is changing, while I agree we have to reduce emissions, I'm hoping we're not going to burn, first of all, our poor kids. But, and then the timelines. But we need to be more realistic about what can we pass right now? And if we're talking about keeping it in the ground, or we can't use renewable energy, whoever it is, it's not realistic. All of the above is a great way to go. The technology is here. People are making money on it. Our lives are improving. I say it's simple, but maybe it's not easy, right?
So what is the main point that you want left-leaning clean energy advocates and policymakers to understand? What's the point you want to get across?
Compromise. For years, Democrats have been saying in the environmental community, please come to the table. Republicans, please come to the table and recognize that the climate is changing, that we have to do something on a bipartisan basis. Republicans are there. They're talking. And I can count on fingers and toes how many Republicans want to make a deal right now on energy, on climate. They recognize that there's an intersection. I would say take them up on it. Work with them. Don't move the goalpost further away. Come back to the center.
All right, let's drill down, no pun intended, on some specifics. The top 2 or 3 necessary policy reforms to help accelerate some of the reforms you're talking about.
So in permitting, I think permitting was a huge missed opportunity. And the IRA, whether you like it or not, is incentivizing energy. If you combine that with permitting reform, being able to deploy that energy, steel in the ground quicker, we would see more results. That was the intention of Senator Manchin when he signed that the IRA. So I think permitting reform holds the key to a lot of what we're talking about because we're going to be able to build. We're able to streamline. We're going to be able to build without the lawsuits. I think that's a huge part of it. I think second is certainty, business certainty. We've got to have certainty. This pendulum is killing us. I know personally, I'm not buying certain things because the economy is kind of crazy right now.
I don't think you're the only one.
No, I mean, I know. If I even think about me, but think about you, think about businesses. Are you going to put out $5 billion right now in something? That's a huge risk right now. So we're kind of all recoiling, and we need incentives to say, and we need certainty to say, spend, build, make it better, make our lives better. And I think, like I said, it sounds simple, but it doesn't seem to be easy these days.
Heather, I'm getting a wrap, so final thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll make a plug for the benefits of clean energy, the clean energy tax credits. There are a lot of Republicans that support it. And as soon as we deal with this in reconciliation, my friends, permitting reform. Let's go get it.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short break. For those in the room, stretch your legs. Maybe talk to the person next to you. Grab a coffee or tea just outside. Make sure you join us in a few minutes when we'll hear from former governor and EPA administrator Christine Todd Whitman, and we're all looking forward to that. For those on the live stream, stick with us. White House reporter Alex Gangitano, my colleague from 400 North Capitol Street, and energy and environment reporter Rachel Frazen, we heard from her earlier. They're going to break down what we've heard so far this morning and what they are looking forward to hearing during the rest of our discussion in the program. So for all, please check with us on our social channels. Let us know what you're thinking and use the hashtag Hill-Energy, the-Hill-Energy. All right, I got that right. Thank you.